drop in pennies or dollar bills, make sure you drop it in your own container. And then if you have silver coins like nickels, dimes, quarters, make sure you drop it in the opposite gender's box so that their points go down. That's how it works. So whoever has the least amount of negative points at the end wins the game, basically. So you might think the brothers are winning if they have more points, but it might just be with all the negative points. So you don't know who's actually winning until the end. So yeah, we have that. 2 boxes will be in the back, so please get whatever change you have and all that. And then inshallah, stay more tuned for more events and all that. And we're honored to have Shaykh Hamza Maqbul, who was born in California and grew up in Washington. He later went on to study at the University of Washington in 2004 and graduated with a degree in biochemistry. He also served as their MSA president. And then he went on to pursue traditional Islamic studies in Syria, Egypt, and then he learned Arabic language in Morocco and Mauritania and UAE. He worked with a number of nonprofit organizations, but most notably he works with Islamic Relief USA. And I seriously can't think of a more befitting scholar than Shaykh Hamza Maqbul to talk on the virtues of helping others and the importance of it. So without further ado.
Do you want me to just sit here?
It doesn't matter. I can.
I was just sitting until he was done.
Right.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذرياته وأهل بيته ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Barakallahu feekum for calling me. One of the reasons I actually usually stand while I speak is because it limits the amount of time that I'll speak for. But camera, what are we going to do? I also wanted to thank the MSA for calling me. I haven't come to the MSA UIC for almost 2 years now. Although since I moved to Chicago 4 years ago, mashallah, I've come to campus maybe 10-15 times for MSA events. I myself, like you mentioned, I was MSA president in our university, and maybe unlike a lot of the other traditional scholars, who come and speak at these events, I've actually been on the other side, putting the events on myself. So I'm MSA for life, inshallah. And proof of that, I want to share with you guys. I just came back from Hajj. If I cough during the talk, it's because my cough hasn't gone away. I came back from Hajj 2 weeks ago. And it's said in the books of fiqh, it's part of the adab of saying salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when you go to Medina Munawwara, that you should shower and wear your best clothes. So I put on my turban, I put on my ring, I wore my nice shawl, everything. And I also had my UIC Islam Awareness Week t-shirt on underneath my tamis, so mashallah. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad that you guys are putting together this program for sponsoring orphans. Barakallahu feekum, thank you so much. So hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Wallahu bi'awn al-'abdi ma kana al-'abdu fi 'awni akhihi. Allah Ta'ala is there to help his slave as long as his slave is there to help his brother. And helping other people gives us the mandate, gives us the help from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We need to get through life. Things are tough. Life is tough in general. Life is very tough if you're a Muslim in America. I don't know if you know this yet. There are a whole lot of people who don't like us, and there's a larger political machinery that's being employed in order to basically destroy our community and our identity. And it would be overwhelming except for the only one power that we know of that's more powerful than all of this, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and He's on our side, inshallah, we'll be okay. This was an understanding that our forefathers had before us, that you don't receive the help of Allah Ta'ala just because you're Palestinian or you're from Pakistan or you're Arab or you're in the MSA or you go to the Muslim masjid on Fridays or whatever. That's a power you don't deserve. That's a power you earn. You don't even earn it. You have to do something or another to seek it. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum to make a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help was for them and it would come to them. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, for example, on the night before battle, he would have himself walk through the tents of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu and see, are they reading Quran? Are they praying tahajjud? If there was somebody who was engaged in idleness or heedlessness, he send them home and say, we don't need people like you, we're going to lose the battle because of people like you. Allah Ta'ala's help comes with those people who trust in Him, and those people who help. And this is a very long discussion that we don't have enough time to talk about. But one part of the way of earning Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's help is to help other people. This is the hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Sayyidina Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu ta'ala anhu was a cousin of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He was a Zuhdi, meaning that he was related to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam through the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's mother Amina Zuhdiya alayhi salam. Sayyidina Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas was a very powerful warrior. A very powerful warrior in battle. He was a very formidable person. And so the Prophet ﷺ once looked at him in preparation for battle. He says, does Allah Ta'ala give people like you strength? And does Allah Ta'ala give people like you rizq? For any reason other than the fact that you take care of your weak, other than the fact that you take care of elderly people, other than the fact that you take care of orphans, other than the fact that you take care of the one that has no one to take care of. In fact, this is a hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, alayhi salatu wassalam, Ana waliyu man la waliya lahu. I am the guardian of the one, I am the protector of the one who has nobody to protect them. And so it's always been that the best of this ummah are those people who are thinking about not themselves, but thinking about those who have nobody to think about them. Taking care of those who have nobody to take care of them. And those are who people who, like we see refugees, right? The entire country of Syria has been destroyed before our eyes. It's very unfortunate. I actually went to Syria to study. I spent the summer of 2000 over there studying Arabic. It's a beautiful country and has beautiful people. People of great akhlaq, people who are very, very soft in their disposition. People who love the students of knowledge that come from other places. They're proud that people come to our lands to learn the deen of Allah Ta'ala. And they used to honor that you could just go and knock on someone's door and stay at their house. Literally, that's how much they love the students of knowledge. Now to see the entire country destroyed before our eyes breaks a person's heart. Iraq, to see the entire infrastructure of the country destroyed before our eyes, it breaks a person's heart. Palestine, right, for so many decades, generations, the majority of the Palestinian population is living in camps and refugee camps, both in the West Bank and Gaza and in Jordan and Syria. So you have people that are Palestinian refugees that have become refugees twice over because their camps have become unlivable in places like Syria, Burma, right? An entire country that has been, with the population has just been, the country's given carte blanche to anybody and everybody to basically do whatever they want to them, and the oppression is so bad it's actually illegal. You can go to jail for taking the name of the Rohingya ethnic minority. They say they don't exist. Done, right? What do you mean they don't exist? There's like hundreds of thousands of them. No, they don't exist. If you say their name, you'll be thrown in jail. In fact, this is a diplomatic sticking point between Aung San Suu Kyi and John Kerry, the American Secretary of State, that he keeps saying that word again and again in their meetings, and she keeps getting upset about it. And her office keeps requesting, don't use that word anymore. Don't use that word anymore. Why? It's for the same reason that all lives matter is an offensive phrase. Even though on the face of it, all lives matter, to say all lives matter is a good thing, isn't it? It's a good thing. What is it though? Someone is saying Black Lives Matter. Don't say it. Don't give these people an existence. Erase their existence. Get rid of their existence. And what did they do when they brought slaves to America? What did they do? Now you don't keep your own name. You keep the name of your slave master. Right? You keep the name. This is a type of dhulm that's on a very satanic level. Do you understand what I'm saying? All dhulm is satanic, but this is a type of dhulm that's like on top of dhulm. It's not enough that you captured a person and stole them from their home and subjected them to torture and forced labor, but you also are going to steal those intangible things that they have to take their identity away from them. What type of punishment is this, by the way? comes in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, right, that in the hellfire, the people who are tortured and tormented in the hellfire, the fire will burn their faces so much so that they won't have faces anymore. They'll be nameless and faceless, anonymous people. Everything about their identity will perish in the fire. The only thing that will be left is their torment. Right? So there's people who are trying to do that in this world. There are not just a few people, there are entire nations of the Muslim world, as there are in other places, other people of other faiths. There are entire nations that are completely being wiped out. Their populations are being systematically massacred, and there are people who are trying to do what? Just save their own life. Save their own life. To spare life and to preserve life is one of the highest commandments and one of the highest imperatives of Deen. Remember that. Preserve life is one of the highest imperatives of Deen. Only one thing that's more important than preserving one's life is to preserve one's iman. That's because it has ta'alluq, it has connection with the everlasting life of the hereafter. So we don't sacrifice the life that lasts forever for the life that is something that's temporary. But the fact of the matter is, one might think $1 that they give, $2 that they give, what is it going to do? How is it going to change someone's life? The one who has that no dollar, that they appreciate the dollar. Right? There are people, for example, the Hurricane Matthew, by the way, because we think we're in America, we're somehow up here and everybody else is down there, and we look at people and feel sorry. People in America die as well. I don't know if you noticed. People in America, they die as well. Hurricane Matthew, there's a death toll. People died from it because people weren't able to get to them in time to provide them help, to evacuate them. People drown in the flooding, in the water. These things happen. The dollar is useful. Why? Because you may buy a meal for somebody, and if they don't have that meal, it's all cumulative. If that's the person's already hungry and that's the last thing that they needed, then people die for the lack of small things like a dollar. People die because of the lack of simple vaccinations. People die because of the lack of basic understanding about certain things. Right? Simple things like an electrical wire falls into a pool of water. People don't have understanding. People die every year. People die die because of these things. It's a lack of small things. If we help one another, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us barakah in this world, and Allah ta'ala will give us eternal life in the hereafter for it. This is an imperative that we have to have. This is something that has to be a source of honor and pride for us. Why? Because we live right now in an age and in a time in which the akhirah is a joke. It doesn't exist to people. Okay? Thawab, the idea of receiving reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a joke. It doesn't exist to people. So if you put money in a donation box, why do people do it? They do it for reciprocity. They say, I want to help somebody out. Why? Because I would wish to be helped out myself. It's the reason I pay taxes. If someone's out on their luck, the government, the state should help them. If I was out on my luck, I would wish that the government helped me as well. This is not what the teaching of Islam is. This type of help, it doesn't receive any reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't receive any reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the golden rules to do unto others like you would like to have done to yourself. This is not the golden rule, rather this is a floor. This is a 0 point at which a person who has an intellect should behave with other people. What is the higher path? إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He commands to what? There are three things that are mentioned. Verily Allah ta'ala commands to what? The first is justice. This is the lowest level. This is one reason I get very uncomfortable around people who yell justice, justice, justice all the time. Why? Do you dislike justice? Are you against justice? Of course not. If you're not for justice, you're like an animal walking around in the body of a human being. You're not a human being. If you're not for justice, you're not a human being. You're shaitan. You're worse than an animal. Justice is the bare minimum that everyone should lay as a bar. That's the teachings of Nubuwah. Don't ask people to clamor for justice. And the simplest way to explain why that is that if Allah Ta'ala were to have justice with any of us, there would be nobody who would make it on the day of judgment. Everybody would go to fire. It's the hadith of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the one about whom the ayah came down in the book, right? that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك. Right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He gave you a clear and manifest victory in order that He can forgive for you whatever sins that you have past and whatever sin that you may do in the future, and He may complete His favor upon you. Even this, the Mufassirun say that the sin of the Prophet, quote unquote, the sin of the Prophet, it doesn't mean sin. Because Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam is ma'soom, he's divinely protected from error. He never did dhulm on anybody. There's no incident you can point to. Even the very masjid that Medina Munawwara, the masjid in the houses that he lived on, he purchased the land. It's not like he came and said, well, I'm a Nabi of Allah Ta'ala, give me the land. He didn't make dhulm on anybody. What is the sin of the Prophet ﷺ? The ulama of tafsir, they say that the Prophet ﷺ, sometimes he would feel bad about not doing as much good as he could have. So there's strange incidents that used to happen to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of them, for example, 1 year for some reason he didn't make i'tikaf. In the last year of his life, he made i'tikaf for 20 days instead of 10. Why? Because he made it up, even though it wasn't fard. There was an incident in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who used to pray 4 rak'ahs of sunnah before Salatul Asr, he was once held up in a meeting, all the way until in a meeting with a delegation of a tribe of the Arabs, so much so that he had to pray Asr in the end of its time, and he had to only pray the Fard. And so what happened was, after that, the Sahaba noticed, radiallahu anhum, that he used to pray 4 rak'ahs of Asr after, 4 rak'ahs of Sunnah after Asr. And they started doing it as well. And then he forbade them. He said, don't do that. Why? The only reason I do this is because that day, remember, we were delayed so much. I prayed the Asr prayer without praying my sunnahs. So then afterward, I had enough time. I made up my 4 rak'ahs of sunnah. And because this is the standard Allah Ta'ala expects from the Anbiya alayhi salam, that when you do something, you be consistent in it. For me, I have to not do this until the end of my days. But you don't do it because for you it's makruh to pray after the Asr prayer. This is actually recorded in some hadith. Not one of the fuqaha considered the sunnah to pray any salat after Asr until after you prayed the Maghrib prayer. But it's recorded by the muhaddithin that this was a practice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these types of small incidences, these are the things that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make tawbah to Allah Ta'ala over 70 times in the day, and in certain riwayat over 100 times in the day. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ, he protected him from sin, and those things even the Prophet ﷺ felt bad about, he used to make tawbah about. They're not even sins. They're better than our good deeds. Even then, on the Day of Judgment, the Prophet ﷺ said that nobody will enter into Jannah except for by Allah's mercy. He said, even you, Ya Rasulullah, if Allah is completely just with you, you won't enter into Jannah. This is not even me. So people who clamor for justice, that's like their entire thing that they do, and that's like their goal, and that's what they idealize as a virtue and a way society should work. Those people are very scary to me. Right? There's a saying, they say an eye for an eye and the whole world is blind. So you might say, why is it then in Islam that there is the law of qisas, the law of retaliation, an eye for an eye? Why is it there in the Quran? Why? Because in certain cases, a person cannot forgive another person, and they will not feel whole again until they have retaliation. Because of those specific situations, this law exists. Otherwise, the higher road is recognized by everybody. It's even by the text of the Quran. The higher road is to do what? To forgive. To forgive one another. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. Allah Ta'ala, the lowest thing He commands to, the lowest thing He commands to. If you cannot even do this much, you really need to check yourself. You have problems. It's what? Justice. And then afterward, ihsan. The word ihsan, for those of you who have studied sarf, has anyone studied sarf? It's the knowledge of Arabic morphology, how to construct words in the Arabic language. The word sarf, the word ihsan and sarf literally means to make something beautiful. It literally means what? It means to make something beautiful. In the context of spirituality, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you don't see Him, to know that He sees you. Remember this. Every single deed a person does, you know how a human being has a ruh inside of him. or her, right? You have a ruh inside it. What happens when the ruh is gone? You consider these things to be kind of a joke, right? So, okay, if you guys want to do it on your own time, but don't bring it up in the classroom. Don't let me bring it up at work. Why? Because we consider it to be superstition. The fact of the matter is that those people, even if they help each other, they take care of one another. The best that they can do is to have some sort of benefit from it in this world. And the hereafter, they're going to show up empty-handed. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Akhirah, the hereafter, is better than this world, and it lasts forever. It lasts forever. So this culture of ihsan, we have to have it. When we sit together, mashallah, when it's time to go eat at whatever, Gharib Nawaz or whatever, there's another Gibranos or Giordano's or whatever, there's a sandwich place or whatever, when it's time to go and, enjoy yourself or to be happy, you have to think about who are the people that they're right now enjoying, they're not eating. You have to do something for them as well. You don't have to cry until every single orphan is taken care of. If anyone here was able to take care of everybody, then they would be expected to do so, but none of us can. You cannot go home and just sell everything and kick yourself out on the street. You're not going to solve anyone else's problem. In fact, you're going to become part of the problem if you do that. But there's a precept in the law. The thing that you cannot do completely, you're also not allowed to leave it completely either. Right? So if you cannot give $10,000, give $1,000 as an MSA. If you can't raise 1,000, raise 100. If you can't raise $1, put a penny in the box. Obviously, you can do more than that, by the way. MashaAllah, you can do more than that. And MashaAllah, you will do more than that. But think about the ihsan, the culture of ihsan, how it's a virtue, and make it a part of your life as an individual. That's not how you're going to fulfill this path. That's just the beginning. Because one of the furud kifaya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put on this ummah is not just that we're individuals of ihsan, but that we're an entire civilization of ihsan. What does that mean? What does it mean that you're a civilization of ihsan? In the old days, in the Muslim world, the pre-modern Muslim world, right? There used to be a system of awqaf, right? The word awqaf is a jama'. It's a plural of the word waqf. If anyone who doesn't know Arabic, my heartfelt suggestion and request is to learn Arabic, inshallah, and I will translate awqaf. Is the plural, and the singular is what? It's waqf. Does anyone know what the word waqf literally means in Arabic? Yeah. This waqf is stock in the sense of like property. That the property, for example, if you have money, or if you have land, or if you have a building, or if you have a herd of animals for that matter, what do? You donate it as waqf. And so the idea is that this money, land, building, whatever, it is now in the ownership of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously Allah ta'ala owns everything that's in the heavens and the earth, right? But it becomes directly the ownership of Allah ta'ala without any intermediation, legally. Okay? And the person who's the waqif, the person who gives that thing in waqf, they'll give a charter, whether it's verbally or whether it's written. How do I want this money to be spent? And the money has to be spent in one of the ways that are enumerated in the deen of Allah ta'ala, in our sacred sharia, as being an act of piety. So you cannot have a waqf for the research and development for new flavors for cotton candy. Why? Because it's not an act of piety. It's just something someone will use for commercial reasons or for their own personal enjoyment. But you can have a waqf, for example, for the running of a masjid. How many people have been to the masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Where is the donation box? Did you know from our mashayikh, Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he considered it to be makruh to have a donation box in the masjid. And when asked why, he said that people come here to remember the akhirah, why you remind them of the dunya. So how did the masjid pay for itself? There were awqaf, people used to give their lands, right? So you have a house, you give it in a waqf, into a waqf, it's rented out. And the income of the rental does what? Pays for masjid stuff, right? They had awqaf that were there to take care of orphans. They had awqaf that were there to take care, to support the students of knowledge and to support the ulama. They had awqaf for all sorts of things. I read that in Damascus there was a waqf specifically made to provide yogurt for poor people. Poor people didn't have yogurt to eat, someone felt bad about it, so he gave a large amount of money for a land endowment in order to, what? Give yogurt to poor people. And then what would happen is that the families would send their kids to go get the yogurt, and sometimes the kids would trip and fall, and the yogurt container would break, and they'd spill all the yogurt. And so they couldn't go back and get another one because there's a quota, you can't get more than, whatever, one container in so much amount of time. So kids would get beaten for that when they get home. Some poor, miskin, poor soul, pious soul, felt so bad that the kids are getting in trouble for this, that he started a waqf that the kids can break a broken yogurt container and take it to them, and they'll give them another yogurt container so they don't get in trouble. Right? This system was so universal in the Muslim lands. Every major masjid, for example, it's not just the subcontinent. I know the subcontinent because of having been there. Every major masjid in the subcontinent used to have a free kitchen where you can just go and eat. They won't ask you if you're Muslim. They won't ask you anything. You just go and eat for free. Right? Any Egyptians here? Yeah. Did you know that Al-Azhar al-Sharif, the university that now is like mired in all this political stuff, at one time used to be an independent institution, used to own 1/3 of the arable land of Egypt. In today's value, that's like a multi-billion-dollar corporation. What happened to all of these awqaf? It's the same thing that happened to all of these awqaf in Europe, right? Because we talk about secularism, humanism, we talk about enlightenment, all of these things. And because the victor is the one that always writes history, these things are often viewed in a positive light. And in the case of Europe, there's a lot of positive that came with it. But what was part of the negative that came with it? Right? In the French Revolution, when they overthrew the monarchy, what's the first thing the revolutionaries did? France, all the churches, their lands, their treasures, everything, they looted them. They said, here, keep the church and keep some things. The lands, we're all going to nationalize them. The government will take them away. This exact same thing happened maybe 200 years later, 150 years later in Muslim countries when we have secularist governments come. And the European law with regards to endowments is not very sophisticated. So they had a lot of endowments that were very wasteful. Whereas in our Islamic law, there's a lot of stricture with regards to how it governs how the money of waqf can be spent, but they can't be spent in certain things that are not considered to be fi sabilillah. Right? So what happens now? Now you have a madrasa, they have no source of income. Now you have a masjid, has no source of income. Now there's nobody to take care of orphans, widows, any of these people anymore. Or the government does it, and the government doesn't do a very good job at it. It's all gone, right? So tell me if the Al-Azhar doesn't own its waqf anymore, where does it have to then beg for money? The government. You and I may love the ulama, but which one of us is going to pay out of our pocket the stipends and the salary of 5,000 ulama? It's not an easy thing to do, right? So you have to ask for the government. So the government, of course, is going to give you money altruistically with no strings attached, right? Right? No. So then afterward, the institution turns into a mockery and everybody says, oh, look, the ulama are so horrible, they ruined Islam. Well, there was kind of like a process that took us to that point. It's not the fault of the ilm, and it's not even the fault of the ulama. It's a system that got messed up. And so one of the reasons I want to mention this to you is that I'm happy that you're sponsoring these orphans. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, accept it from you. Inshallah, whatever orphans you sponsor, inshallah, Yawm al-Qiyamah, they take you by the hand through the difficulty and the miseries of the Day of Judgment, and Allah Ta'ala forgives you for their sake and enters you into His Rahmah and His mercy on the Day of Judgment. And I want you to do better than pennies and dollars and silver coins. I want you to give from what you have, and I also want you to go home. Everyone has relatives. If your parents have some money, or if your relatives have some money, or you know someone in the masjid or whatever, even so much, if you could just stand outside the masjid one day with the box, just collect what you can, do more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may do more for you as well. One of the reasons I find these orphan sponsorship programs to be very beautiful is it mimics a waqf in one sense. And the sense in which it mimics a waqf is that what? It follows a prophetic model of doing a good deed with consistency. It's not like, here's a meal, good luck tomorrow. Right? But it's consistent. With consistency and with stability, big problems can be solved. With institutionalization, big complex issues can be tackled. If you're doing everything day to day, that kid, how is a kid going to get an education if he doesn't know where he's going to eat tomorrow? Why is school not going to seem like a waste of time for them? And that's one of those things, once you're 30, then you can't send the kid back to school anymore. The person's illiterate for the rest of their life. The person doesn't know simple things for the rest of their life. You go on Hajj, you see people, someone in Ihram, smoking a cigarette, you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. How do you know how horrible it is? Maybe that person has more love in their heart. They obviously didn't spend thousands of dollars to come to Makkah Mukarramah, because they're people who don't love Allah and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You could have spent the money in a far more enjoyable way in Dubai or in some other place, in some resort town. They are obviously here because they love Allah and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You take for granted maybe the fact that when you were a kid, certain things you consider common sense, someone was there to teach you. Whereas if your father is, forget about orphans, if your father is working 6 days a week, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and you have like 7, 8 siblings, 10 siblings, your mother has to take care of all of them. Right? You're not going to have enough money to go to school. There was no one there to teach you that. You understand what I'm saying? These things, these problems can be better dealt with and better managed through stability. So I'm very happy about the orphan sponsorship from that point of view. And the reason, even though you may wonder, like, what does this have to do with orphan sponsorship that he's teaching us about what? All of you know that, inshallah, give sadaqah, you'll go to Jannah. You guys already know that. I don't have to recite for you the litany of ahadith. You also know there's benefits of it. It cures the sick, it does this, that. There's so many things. Most of you have probably heard all of those things before. Right? What I want to do is give you a vision. Why? Because most of you may be broke for now. Right? But one day, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not all of you, some of you, inshallah, Allah ta'ala will give you wealth. Some of you, Allah ta'ala may give you power. Allah ta'ala may make you people, you may not become an alim of deen, but you may become the president of the masjid. You may become someone of consequence that makes decisions on behalf of the ummah, right? So you should see a vision. This is you should understand the superiority, the patent superiority of this method of helping people. What do we want to do? We want to take things to the next level. The Muslims didn't build civilization from Indonesia all the way to Morocco, and there's not African American people in this country right now with the names of Muslims, and white people in this country right now with the names of Muslims, people converting from all nations of the earth. They see people and Egyptian people. What the hell do they have in common? Do you ever see a Hindu and a Coptic Christian meeting every day, 5 times a day for anything other than the love of money? It doesn't happen. Even that doesn't happen. The civilization, in order to build it, it wasn't done something just by like being part-time Friday Muslim, Sunday school Muslim. It doesn't happen that way. It happens by thinking, planning in a multi-generational fashion. It happens by taking things to the next level. The decline of the ummah is not something that happened for free. It happened because people made a number of, collectively as an ummah, people have made a number of bad decisions. And the good news is the decline is only political and economic. The decline may be spiritual, but the core of what the spirituality of the deen is still intact. And the core of the knowledge of the deen is still intact. And it's something Allah Ta'ala protects. It's not something that we protect ourselves. The good news is what you need in order to have the good old days again. It's all there, right? We just need some people to think about those things, to sleep at night not to lose sleep at night, not because of the shoes that they want to buy, or the car that they want to buy, or the place they want to go to vacation, or their sports teams or anything. And I'm sorry about that. I'm not cool, Shaykh. Okay, I don't give a damn who won the NBA finals this year. I don't give a damn who won the NHL finals this year. I don't care who hit a home run. None of that stuff. I don't really care about any of those things. Is it haram? No, I'm not saying it's haram. I'm not blaming anyone who seems to like those things. Everybody likes dumb things. I have dumb things I like. You understand what I mean? Like if you brought like a PlayStation, I could play Street Fighter for 4 hours with you. I watched a lot of episodes of The Simpsons and Star Trek, right? But I don't consider these things to be an important part of my identity. Even though I enjoy it and whatever, if it's not haram, alhamdulillah, I'm not here to say, but I'm saying okay, grow up. You guys are all grown up now, right? Brothers, man up, behave like a man. It's how embarrassing it is when most MSAs you go to, the sisters behave with more they have more manliness in them, not in gender sense, but in terms of the virtues, the chivalrous virtue, right? And don't lose sleep at night because of the car you drive, because of the place you're going to go to vacation. Don't define yourself by things you consume. It's not becoming of a person who's not. Okay? Lose sleep at night when you think about the children that don't have something to eat. Lose sleep at night when you think about the people in our own community. By the way, it's not just overseas. There are people in this community, they cannot pay their electric bills and heating bills in the winter, the dead of winter. So I don't know where they are. I don't think anyone in America, there's no one who gives zakat in America. That's dead wrong. Completely not true. Imagine if there's a single mother has 4 children she has to take care of. You're going to see her at Jummah? Are you going to see her at Jummah? No. These people are there. They're all there, by the way. So I'm not trying to, it's everywhere. Lose sleep at night because of these people. Plan for them. If you cannot help all of them, help some of them. If you can't help some of them, at least help one of them. So you can show your face in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I gave you all of these things. What did you do with it? The person who says I did something is better than the one who said I did nothing. None of us is going to be able to say I did enough. At some point you have to forgive yourself for not being able to do more. Not forgive yourself, ask Allah to forgive you for not being able to do more, and Allah will forgive you. But if you can't do, if you can't do anything, or so you can't do everything, you should do something. If you can't do something, you should at least, if you can't do take care of some of the community, you should at least take care of somebody. And finally, because my time is up, I wanted to just say that thinking and planning about things, it's not impractical. Talking with each other about things, it's not impractical. How many people here have been to too many meetings in their life? I definitely have. Right? Are meetings productive? No, meetings are most often a waste of time. Well, not quite. Okay? Thinking of things, brainstorming things, meeting and talking about things, it's not a complete waste of time. Even if nothing comes out of them, doesn't Allah Ta'ala reward people based on their intentions? If you have an idea, just to think about how can we solve a problem, even if you're never able to implement it. This also is a good deed. This is called Tadabbur and Tafakkur. There's an entire chapter regarding this in the beginning part of the Riyadh al-Salihin. How the Prophet ﷺ described this as an act of piety. Imam Junayd al-Baghdadi rahimahullah ta'ala, he said what? He said to think and ponder deeply over good things. And pondering on how to stop bad things, that's also a good thing. To ponder over good things is an act that's what? That means you leave your tent that you pitched on this earth, and you pitched another one, you entered it in the Jannah, in the heavens. Right? So don't ever stop thinking about and planning things. Okay? Don't be a person who just talks with no intention whatsoever to implement anything. But every time think about things, plan things, and have ask Allah Ta'ala that, Ya Allah Ta'ala, if there's khair and if there's good in it, make it happen. Try it. Right? And if your ideas fall flat on their face 10 times, oftentimes there are a lot of people it works the 11th time. So just keep that process going, inshallah. Keep thinking about, keep your heart filled with the concern and the worry of your akhirah and the concern and worry for the people who are in pain and suffering, for the people in the ummah and for other people as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us. وصلى الله تعالى على رسوله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few questions. So number one, inshallah, like nobody's ever put in this situation, but in a situation where you have to lie or like declare kufr in order to save your life, do you have to like repent for that?
So if someone were to, Allah protect us all, if someone were to like put a gun to someone's head and say, renounce your Islam or I'll kill you, right? At that point, a person is allowed to renounce their Islam on the tongue, but they're not allowed to renounce it in their heart. And you don't have to repent for that because it's not your sin in the first place. There's actually a story about the Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu ta'ala anhu. His father was a poor man from one of the poor and weak disenfranchised tribes of the Arabs. And his mother, she was a freed slave of Abu Jahl. She was a freed African slave woman. And so Ammar bin Yasir, when he became Muslim and then he gave da'wah to his parents and they became Muslim, Abu Jahl was furious. And he actually, because they were under the tribal protection of Abu Jahl's clan, he basically tortured them to death and there was nobody there to stand up for them. They had no power to stand up for themselves. And he tortured his parents to death. They were the first shuhada in Islam. The first martyr in Islam was the mother, Sumayya of Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir. Radiallahu ta'ala. I've never seen like a baby girl that's named Sumayya except for she's been beautiful. And I think it's the nisbah of the sacrifice that those people made. At any rate, Sayyidina Ammar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when it came his turn to be tortured after seeing his parents being killed like that, he was asked to renounce Islam and he said yes. And he became very distraught. They let him go, but he became very distraught. He went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he didn't go to him, actually he hid from him because he was so ashamed about what he did, because he thought that this is going to disbar him from salvation and disbar him from the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. So the Prophet ﷺ called him to be asked, called for him, asked him to be brought forward, and he asked him, he said, did you actually give up Iman or was it out of fear of dying that you said what you said? He said, Ya Rasulullah, I lost my mind, that's how scared I was. And then the ayah of the Quran that came down that a person is not taken into account for what the tongue says, but what the heart believes. So in that sense, if a person is in a situation where it's going to be them saving their life, then the sin is on the person who forced them to do that. It's not a sin in the first place. And if a person is in a situation where acquiescing to someone's demand they fear will actually take their iman away from them, then a person should preserve their iman, if at the expense of their life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us from ever being in either of those situations.
Oh, can you mention the ayah? What was the ayah that was reading?
I don't remember the exact wording, but if you email me,
I'm in line.
I will send it to you by email. I'm not a hafiz. I feel like I'm the only person in all of Chicago who's not a hafiz sometimes. So I don't want to quote it wrong. The relevant part of it. Okay, I'll send you the ayah.
And so based on like what we were talking about with would you say that if somebody like gives sadaqah in a consistent manner, but I mean it's sporadic, but it's not like they give once like a year or something, do you think that it's better for somebody to like give a consistent sponsorship, that like a monthly one or something, rather than like sporadic sadaqah?
Yeah, this is a hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that خير الأعمال وأفضل الأعمال أدومها وإن قل وأنا أرويه بالمعنى, that the best of deeds are those that are the most consistent. Adwam means not just consistent, but lasts for the longest amount of time. The consistency lasts as istiqamah, even if it's small.
Yeah.
Because if you keep digging in the same place, little by little, you'll hit water eventually. Whereas if you dig from here and then you dig from there and then you dig from there, your well will never hit water. So it's definitely the more you can move things toward consistency, not just in sadaqah, it's actually in deeds as well. You'll see that the Prophet ﷺ, like we mentioned from before, when he would start something, he would continue it. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhu learned that from him. So the hadith about Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, that he asked the Prophet ﷺ, I wish to fast, and so he said, fast on the 3 middle days of the month. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I can do more than that, I want to do more than that. He says, okay, then fast on Mondays and Thursdays. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to do even more than that. He said, then fast the fast of Dawood, who fasted every other day, and when he met the enemy in battle, he never turned his back and fled. And so Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, anhuma, he later on regretted. He said that Rasulullah was trying to tell me sallallahu alaihi wasallam not to take on so much. So I took on this fast of every other day, and so now in my old age it's very difficult for me to keep it up. And so the kind of the unspoken subtext is what? Is that they have this understanding when you start something, build things up stepwise, incrementally, but like whatever progress or advancement you do, be consistent in it. Don't let up on it. Treat it as if it's far, even if it's not far.
Well, before I continue, like, if anybody else has questions, please go before me because I like. Okay, so because with sponsorship, like what worried me is, especially the way like you can register for a sponsorship nowadays, is that it's kind of like once you do it once, like it'll automatically be like taken from your account or something like that. And the point of sadaqah, like for yourself, is purification and like letting go of your money. So if that's not like a thought process every single time, does it lose value like with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Yeah, it does. That's why a person should always be very mindful of what they do. And that's not just a problem with orphan sponsorship. I mean, people have that problem with their salat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything you do, you should always constantly take some time in the day. A person should take some time every day for reflection. A person should take some, like, more time every week for reflection. A person should take a day or some days every month for reflection. A person should take some time every year for reflection to renew their understanding, renew their intentions, renew why they're doing what they're doing, and that's an issue. That's an issue. But on the flip side, if something is there for your ease in order to make yourself more consistent with it, it's not necessarily in and of itself is not bad. You just have to take some steps and measures to make sure that you don't become heedless of your own needs there.
So, like for some people, sadaqah might be like a struggle because of fear of like not having enough for yourself and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for others, and even like for good deeds in general, like there might not be struggle in it. So it might not take like a battle with yourself to perform it. So does that mean that like if you're overcoming the struggle of doing a good deed, like you should constantly be seeking out something difficult? Or
so there's two things. One is there is a commandment that we have to take care of our poor, right? So if you're a rich person, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to give sadaqah because it's not a big deal for me. The problem is that commandment of deen is being ignored. So one imperative of the deen is to take care of the poor. Another imperative of the deen is that everybody needs to better themselves, right? So for their own self-betterment, then if a person, for them giving sadaqah is not a big deal, then they should focus on something else. Some people, for them, fasting is not difficult, right? Some people, for them, fasting is really hard, right? Some people, for them, memorization is not difficult. They become kafar of Quran. I know somebody who memorized the entire Quran in like 3 months. It happens. It's not like unheard of, right? Rarely, every person who's been a hifz teacher for like maybe 10 years or so, they'll tell you about kids that their mind is such that they can memorize a juz of Quran in a day. It's not unheard of. It does happen. It happens. Like there are people like in Chicago, probably dozens of them like that. Out of the mashallah thousands of the fathers that we have. So if something is difficult for you, then everyone should do the thing that they're made for. So obviously, if you're a gifted NBA or a gifted basketball player and you can get into the NBA, then there's no use trying to become a mathematician, right? Why? Because Allah created everyone to do something, find what you're good at and do that, right? But for the sake of your own self-improvement, preserve yourself, everyone has to do something called mujahada, right? Mujahada is the process in which a person struggles against their own nafs in order to keep it in check. And mujahada involves doing all those things that you don't like. And if there is one type of mujahada that you're suited to, then for your self-improvement, subject yourself to another type of mujahada. Within reason, don't make yourself go crazy. The nafs is like a rubber band. Its own mujahada you have to do in small meter doses, right? The rubber band, the more you pull it, the harder it will slap when you let go. And so that's not a healthy, that pain from that's not a healthy thing either. But little by little, a person should incrementally, push themselves in a certain direction. Build certain capacities that they have, whether it be generosity or whether it be patience or whether it be any of these things. Just like you go to the gym, if you see people pumping all this iron, the first time you go to the gym, oftentimes you can't even lift the bar, But you just ease up, lighten up, don't just go and say, oh, I'm horrible, I'm never going to become strong. Little by little, after a couple of months, you'll be pumping iron with everybody else, inshallah, right? But that mujahada, yes, you're right. If something is easy for a person, then they should pick certain things that also are difficult for them, and it will build their spiritual character, it will build their spiritual faculties, their power and ability to get through things. Because it takes a lot of spiritual power to get through life, to say the haqq, to do the right thing, to be patient, to sacrifice, give someone else when you don't have yourself. These things require a lot of spiritual power that has to be built. That's why you have things like waking up for Fajr. You have things in Islam like fasting the month of Ramadan. You have things like Hajj. Oh my goodness, Hajj is can become very difficult at certain times, right? And whoever does it, they come back more powerful from those exercises. And there are things as individuals we always have to do. And this is one of the reasons I warn you, and I warn myself, okay? I warn you about preachers, people who come in the cloth of the ulama, and they will tell you exactly what you want to hear, and you'll love it. And it's not good for you. Somebody who preaches to your biases. There are 100 things. For example, there are certain things in the deen, right? If you come into a room, most places if you preach to people about the virtues of giving orphans, you're not going to get any opposition. Right? There are certain things about the haqq that if you tell people, you'll get opposition. For example, if you're asked a fatwa about whether it's permissible to transact in usury, and there's the 5-10 board members, out of them, half of them are people who work at Chase. If you say the haqq in that position, there's a good chance you may never be invited back to that masjid. If you're the imam, you may be fired. There's a lot of difficulty. This is one of the strange things about the haqq, right? About the truth, right? Al-haqq is one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes. It's one of His names, right? The haqq has this very strange appeal about it, and it has a very strange attraction and charisma to it, that even though the deck is stacked against the person, if they speak the haqq will always eventually overwhelm everybody, right? This country, there's a time that slavery was and there's slavery in Islam as well. It's very different than the slavery in America. And I'm not advocating any sort of return to slavery at all, but I'm just saying it was very different, right? The slavery here was pure evil. It was basically one race is like animals and the other race is masters over them. We never had that idea in our deen, right? What happens? Did black people ever militarily have the upper hand over white people that they freed themselves? No. But what was happening is dhulm. There were people who spoke the haqq, and it literally tore the nation apart until the nation could learn to deal with that, and then the nation became whole again. Black people in this country, there was a time that they couldn't drink from the same water fountain and from the same... By the way, there's a lot of the people who remember those as the good old days, they say make America great again. They're talking about that. That's the good old days that they wish to go back to. They remember, there are people alive who remember those days. Okay? And they also have trained their own children and their own whatever to think in that way. And some people are not even cognizant of the fact that that's what's going on, right? Did black people ever have politically, economically the upper hand over white people that they abolished those laws? It's all the barakah of the haq. It's all the barakah of the haq. Even though the one saying it, right, Martin Luther King, was he Muslim? No. Right? Malcolm X became Muslim near the end of his life. Right? Even if he wasn't there. Why? Because speaking the haq, whoever says it, whether a person is Muslim or non-Muslim, every time you speak the truth, it has a ta'alluq, it has a connection with the holy essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It gives it a power that overwhelms people. It may take a day, it may take another day, but it overwhelms entire nations. Without any sort of physical power. It doesn't need physical power. It will overwhelm nations, entire civilizations. It will overwhelm weapons, armies, everybody, right? There are times when you're going to walk into a place, or you're going to have somebody who may who may say something and be cognizant of the fact that they're skirting around certain issues in order to tell someone what they're pleased with. The person who loves you is not the one who tells you what you want to hear all the time. The person who loves you is the one who tells you what you need to hear. And this is where the prophetic hikmah and wisdom comes in. That you want to, right, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. The hikmah of the Anbiya alayhimus salam is not in telling you only what you want to hear. It's in telling you what you need to hear, but in the best way possible. In the best way possible, at the best time possible, and in the way that they plan, how will this become palatable for you. But the Prophet ﷺ, did he preach to people with hikmah? Yeah, he was like a really nice person. He was like the nicest person ever to walk the earth. Were there people who opposed him still? So there's no amount of hikmah that you're ever going to be able to say that circumvents opposition ever. And this is one of the reasons that the Salaf, I think it's Sufyan al-Thawri, is one of the tabi'een, one of the muhaddithin of the tabi'een from Kufa. He said that we used to consider a person that only has friends and has no adversaries. We used to fear that person might be a munafiq. Why? Because it's impossible that a person speak the haqq wherever they are, however they are, whenever they are, wherever they are, and not have some flack come up. And that's not, it doesn't excuse us for not be nice to each other. We should be nice to each other.
I have one last question.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you.
We already paid for the parking, so we may as well, right?
What?
I think we already paid for the parking meter, so we may as well.
Wait, I'm trying to remember the first part. Oh yeah, okay, so you mentioned, losing sleep at night, over the people that cannot afford to have a roof to sleep under, and even Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, when he reconquered Jerusalem, he never smiled before he even reconquered it. So to what degree should we be behaving like that? Because even though it doesn't necessarily help people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed these this corruption, these oppressions as tests for us too, not only them. So how should we be practicing that kind of behavior?
We have to always keep with us concern. So there's a continuum, right? Right here, a person is on this end of the continuum, the person is carefree. Here on this side of the continuum is illness, mental and physical, right? You lose so much sleep that whatever, you become sick and die, that it didn't help put a roof over anyone's head, nor did it reconquer Jerusalem, nor did it do anything for you. But on the flip side, if you're not even worried about it, weeks go by, you never think about anyone other than yourself. That's months go by, years go by. There are people like that. Years go by, they don't think about anything other than people. Decades go by without people thinking about their parents. Oh yeah, my mother, she was nice to me. That's not. If that happens, then please do go and visit her when you remember. But you should keep this part of dhikr, part of the state of remembrance is to keep this just worry, concern, memory of the things that you need to remember with you. right? And if they bother you a little bit, there's a certain type of stress that's unhealthy, and there's a certain type of stress that's healthy. Has anyone here done a paper at the last minute? وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الهم والحزن والجبن والبخل والعجز والكسل وغلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من جهد البلاء ومن درك الشقاء ومن سوء القضاء ومن شماتة الأعداء. اللهم إنا نسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين، وإذا أردت بعبادك فتنة فاقبضنا إليك غير مفتونين. وصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم ربنا تقبل منا ووفقنا واختم لنا بالحسنى. بركة الفاتحة.